Alright, so Nightreign playtest is officially over. We've got a chance to give it a try, check out some of the classes, plus one of the expeditions, and I've got some thoughts, because I can't help but have some mixed feelings about all of it, and I wanted to see if anybody else also shares the same opinions as I do. Don't get me wrong, the class design and balance was great, power-ups for the most part felt fun. I also strangely loved the drop-in, drop-out aspect of the co-op, but I wonder if that's going to be enough, given the fact that Nightreign sells as a standalone game, which is going to cost $40 or $60 if you pick the deluxe edition, which also includes a DLC. So how does all of this stack up when we've got other games with similar spin-offs, namely Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima, having done this and more with Legends mode for absolutely free for everybody who already owned the base game? That being said, I can't be the only one who's worried about the longevity of the game, specifically because of the amount of content it launches with. For $40, you're probably going to expect a little bit more, and this isn't like a huge criticism or anything. There are other points I want to make, but specifically, you're probably going to just have one single gameplay loop for the whole duration. You're pretty much going to have access to expeditions. We've seen the first one, but supposedly there will be 8 in total on launch day, corresponding to the 8 new bosses that they introduced in Nightreign. But as far as I'm aware, the only thing that changes from expedition to expedition, besides the end of day 3 boss, is going to be some of the extra modifiers along the way, specifically cataclysmic events, volcanic eruptions, or meteorite impacts. But structurally, the gameplay loop will remain unchanged. You drop in, you level up, grab some gear, go to the night bosses, go to the next day, rinse and repeat up until day 3, when you supposedly defeat the third and final boss. And supposedly, it's going to be increasingly more difficult. To give you a comparison, and you will see me making this a lot in this video because they are so similar, but Ghost of Tsushima Legends, when it launched back in 2020, not only was it completely free of charge for everybody who owned the base version of the game, it also launched with multiple game modes, not just multiple classes. So we had a 2-player story mode with like 8 or so different chapters, also a 3-player co-op survival mode to control bases, and a week or so later we got a full-blown 3-part raid that was completely different than anything we've seen in the full game. Specifically, completely new story based in Japanese mythology with completely new mechanics and features. And that was just the beginning. Eventually we got Rivals mode, other rewards, and really cool cosmetics in the game, all free of charge if you owned the base game. If you didn't, it only costs like $20 to buy it even to this day, which in my opinion I think was absolutely worth it. So that is why I'm wondering, is Nightreign at the same level as Ghost of Tsushima Legends, given dollar per minute or hour of entertainment? I'm going to leave that up to you. Besides that, another point of pain I constantly bumped my head against was the communication, or lack of it thereof, and specifically I want to first reference the ping system, which I think could definitely use some big improvements. Again, just feedback, not criticism, as obviously many of these will improve by the time the game comes out. Say a sonar ping system that relays that information more easily, both audibly and visually to you, even if you are in the middle of combat and bombarded by other in-game effects. Again, very similar to Ghost of Tsushima Legends, since I always enjoyed the ping system in that game. And on a similar note, I would also love the ability to mark individual targets or even treasure chests so that my team knows what to focus on next. There were many fights, I was clearly playing with new players and I wanted to relate to them that there's a strong item that they could pick off that really suits their class, or something like a specific boss they should focus on in a 2 or 3 fight situation. That is just some of the stuff that I really wish, besides having the ability of a in-game voice chat, but obviously that can be somewhat bypassed with some of the other software that exists these days. Now, to build upon the game's longevity we talked about at the beginning of the video, my next question is, what about solo play? I know that technically this is a 2 or 3-player co-op depending on your party choice, but what about playing it completely solo, especially when the game inevitably drops off, the player base dwindles, or maybe the company doesn't want to allocate as many resources to hold up the servers? What happens then? And specifically, I'm asking this question because of the way enemy scaling works in this game. And to give you an example, in one of the runs that I had, I accidentally ended up at the final boss in day 3 completely solo. Not because I wanted to, but because my 2 other teammates disconnected from the server out of reasons that were out of their control. And in this case, what I noticed is that that specific boss encounter was significantly easier in a solo mode than it was with a full 3-party setup. So at least theoretically, this tells me that there shouldn't be any hindrance in the way of having some kind of solo play in this game, even if it's not the same game mode, but something that fully caters to solo players. But again, that might change on launch day as enemy scaling is likely going to get readjusted, or maybe some of the other expeditions will have a significant bump in difficulty. Now, obviously, it's not just feedback that I have, it's also praises, because there are a few things that I really think Nightreign absolutely nailed, and one of them definitely has to be class design and class balance. Not only have all the 4 current classes felt very unique and fun to play with, they all felt very useful more or less, and they only increased in power as I was getting extra items during runs and extra relics for the permanent future upgrades. This is something that I absolutely loved, and this is just the beginning. There are 4 other classes that we haven't even seen yet. Some of them were teased, like for example, we've seen there's an archer/sniper type called Iron Eye. This one seems to start with some bow and bow related skills, and also another ability that lets it summon a rock pillar that you can climb on so that you can snipe enemies from afar, which seems and sounds really cool. Another one is this heavy hitter sort of juggernaut class that we've seen glimpses of in the trailer, also using heavy armor and slow attacks that can damage enemies, plus it has this really cool ground stomp that I absolutely love. Probably Samurai will be another popular class to be played with because it features that Sekiro style parry among other similar abilities, and there's a 4th currently unknown, some kind of summoner class that uses spirit ashes to summon all sorts of companions in combat. But again, balance here helps a lot. In my opinion, I think that the Recluse was by far the most unique, having the ability to combine different ailments so that you can create up to like 12 different new spells is something that I absolutely loved. Its gameplay loop is a bit more deliberate, strategic, and involves a bit of skill compared to some of the others, but if you nail it down, it's one of the best, because mages are some of the best damage dealers too. But that's just the beginning. I also have my praises for the loot system, though this was a bit of a mixed bag for me. So on one side, after testing all of the legendaries in the game, I am surprised and shocked by how strong they were actually made. So some of them even got completely new attacks or effects when you perform different moves. For example, most of the heavy charged attacks on these legendary weapons now cast new abilities. Anything from new AoE attacks, AoE group buffs, or even cool new effects that we never had in the full game, and even like spikes on the ground from some of them. There are some amazing options over here once you get them. Not all of them, but many of them do. However, it's a mixed bag for me because I see no reason for FromSoft to remove all of the armor slots. I mean, all of the passives currently handled by the 6 weapon slots could have easily been relayed to an armor system that maybe changed your looks a little bit from gameplay or expedition to expedition. And given how base Elden Ring has so many amazing armor sets that you could easily customize for this game mode, I think that that's a missed opportunity to maybe add a bit more complexity to your build strategizing. Yes, technically I know that they probably want to funnel all of this into in-game skins somehow, be it via in-game means or maybe other external sources. But again, I could have definitely made use of some nice armor sets in there to maybe make my character a bit more distinct than the other players, besides just having access to different weapons. Also, on top of that, I would have to say that this whole situation of having the Fortnite circle and collecting gear, sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. I've had runs that were absolutely amazing from the very start because I got a specifically very strong upgrade, but in other runs, I no longer got it, so it felt way less satisfying, maybe even less fun if I were to say so. So it is possible that every now and then you're going to get some sort of frustration because you cannot build specifically how you want to build your character, or maybe you're going to become more inefficient compared to how you were a couple of matches ago just because RNG gods didn't favor you just then. I've had quite a number of matches that unfolded that way. Also, I may not be the biggest fan of the Fortnite circle. Again, Fortnite is not my favorite game. I barely played it because I just don't find the gameplay loop that entertaining. That is just me, but you can completely disagree. having that in an Elden Ring setting, I don't think makes it any better. Now, admittedly, you can bypass most of the damage that you get simply by paying attention to your potion count and making strategic use of Sites of Grace on the way. You can still actually stay in the storm for a relatively long period of time, but especially early on when you're in the middle of a very entertaining boss fight and you really want to fight it and see its conclusion, all of a sudden that Fortnite circle comes in and you have to take your leave, especially if you don't damage the boss in a timely manner. Yes, admittedly, that is the hallmark of an inefficient run, but not everything has to be efficient every single time. This is about fun, and sometimes fighting a tough challenge is fun in and of itself. Anyway, that is just a portion of what I wanted to say so far. It's not like a complete thesis on everything that the game could improve. Obviously, we have to wait and see, as this is just literally a glimpse of what currently Nightreign has to offer. Now, I am still keeping hopes high because the basic features and mechanics that make this entertaining are there. The class system and balance is really good. The fighting system is really great. Upgrading gear when it happens properly really makes the difference, and it feels satisfying to become increasingly more powerful. And like I said, many of the relics we get are very strong. Sometimes RNG, which is annoying, but sometimes it can become very strong. So keeping an eye out on this, let me know down below what's your opinion. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.